In this video, we're going to look at ways to write equations in slope-intercept form given certain informations about a line. Now, when we talk about slope-intercept form, we're talking about y equals mx plus b. So whenever you see slope-intercept form, or it calls for slope-intercept form, we are wanting to write the equation in the form y equals mx plus b. And as we've discussed in previous lessons, m represents the slope of the line, and b represents the y-intercept of the line, or where the line actually crosses the y-axis. So when I'm looking at example 1 over here, so let's come back to example 1, it says write an equation of a line that passes through this point, -4, 2, and remember that's your x and y coordinate for the point, with a slope of 3. So we have to figure out how to take a particular point on a line and the slope of that line and create a linear equation in slope-intercept form. So this first one is worked out for you, so follow the steps. We know that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Well, m represents slope. Remember, you can see down here that m is the slope. So I know that the slope up here is 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here for m, and I'm going to plug in 3. And you can see I've plugged in 3 in place of m, because that, after all, is our slope. Then I have this point, -4, 2. Now, -4, 2 is just one of an infinite number of points on this line. Remember, when you have a line, if I were to draw a line like this, those arrows indicate that that line goes on forever. And that means that there are points going on that line forever. And we cannot possibly plot all of them. All we need to establish the equation of that line is one of these points. So you're provided -4, 2. So for example, let's say this is the point -4, 2. We know that that's the point, one point on the line, and we know that we have a slope of 3. So from here we would go up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1, etc. And that's how we graph. So let's look back at the example. I know an x and I know a y that go on this line, or that are a part of this line. So I'm going to plug in my x coordinate, -4, in for x in the equation. The equation of a line is such an equation because when you look at this format, what that means is for every xy pair on that line, when you plug in the slope and the y-intercept, every xy pair will make this one equation work. That's why a line has an equation. It is an equation that is set up so that when you plug in any point, x, y, that exists on that line, this equation works. So now let's look at the y value. That's 2. So I'm going to come back in the equation where I see y, and I'm going to plug in a 2. So why am I doing this? Well, this is going to enable me to find b, which is my y-intercept, because this is the one thing I don't know. I know the slope, and I know one point that's on that line, but I do not know the y-intercept. So we're going to work through to find this guy until we solve for it. So I'm going to plug these in. The 2 stays the same. 3 times -4 gives me -12. And then remember, as in any algebraic equation, when you have a variable or an unknown, you want to isolate that variable to where it's by itself. So I'm going to take that -12, and I'm actually going to add it to both sides. It's kind of hard to see here, but that's going to be a +12 and a +12. And 12 plus 2 gives me 14. And remember, I'm adding on this side so that this cancels. So that leaves me with b is equal to 14. Why is this important? Well, let's go back to what we already knew. We knew the slope to be 3, correct? So mx, 3 is going to be your slope. I did not know b. I do know B now. How did I find B? I plugged in one point that was on that line and my slope to find B. So now I can write my equation. Y is equal to 3x, which is your M, plus 14, which is your B. So now let's look at the second example. The second example, I want to write the equation of a line that passes through -2, 1 with a slope of 1/4. So let's look at this slope now. The slope is now 1/4. So that is what I'm going to plug in for M. So look at the sequence here. I plugged in 1/4 for my slope. Again, I'm trying to figure out B so I can write the general equation. So the next thing I'm going to plug in is my XY coordinate. Here's my Y value, and here is my X value right here. So I'm going to plug in -2 for X, and you can see I've plugged it in there for X. And then I'm going to plug in -1 for Y. You can see I've plugged it in there. Again, I can plug those in because I know the slope is 1/4, and I know that since this point is on the line, it will make this equation work. I just have to figure out what B has to equal in order for the equation to work. So let's solve. -1 equals -1/2, which is what we get when we multiply 1/4 times -2. And just to kind of remind you, I've got 1/4 times -2. That's the same as 1/4 times -2/1. You can cross reduce, but let's keep it simple. Multiply straight across. 1 times -2 is -2. 4 times 1 is 4. And then I can reduce this to -1/2, which is how we got there. Now, I want to solve for B. So in order to get B all by itself, I have to take that -1/2 and move it to the other side. So I'm going to add it. And when you do -1 plus 1/2, obviously these guys cancel. -1 plus 1/2 gives you -1/2. So B is -1/2. I know my slope is already 1/4, which is right there. And I know my B is -1/2. And again, look how we did this in the other problem. Same thing. So that's how you find the equation using slope-intercept form. Let me do one more example here. Let's do number 7. So I'm going to move this up. And on your assignment, you'll see that you have boxes where you can complete this. So I want to put this in slope-intercept form. I need to get this in y equals mx plus b form. Well, first of all, what is my slope? Well, my slope is 0. So I'm going to plug in 0 for m. Whoops, let me erase that. And then what are the coordinates of the point I have? Well, if I want to use the same color scheme, I apologize. Let me go back here. X is -5, so I'm going to plug in -5 for X. My program froze a little bit, so give me a second. There we go, -5 for X. And I'm going to plug in 4 for Y, because that is my Y value. So I'm going to plug in 4. And then I have plus B. I'm looking for B, right? So let's simplify. 4 equals, well, what's 0 times -5? It's just 0. So technically, this is actually over a little quicker than our other example. B is actually going to equal 4. So now I can write my equation. Y equals, and what's M? 0, X plus 4. But 0x, I really don't need to write 0x. So this is going to be an example where we just have a horizontal line. This slope is 0. So your equation will look like this. So that's how you write the equation of a line from slope-intercept form. By plugging into slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, solve for b, and then rewrite the equation once you know b.